something changed in you. Not overnight, not from a single event you can point to on a calendar. It happened somewhere in the accumulation, in the season when the weight was heaviest, in the quiet after something broke, in the long stretch of time when no one was watching and you had nothing left to perform. And in that stretch, quietly, without announcement, something shifted. I want to talk to you today about a man, not a stranger, someone you have been living with, and whose nature you are only through everything you have survived, beginning to understand clearly enough to name. That man is the version of you that pain tried to create. Every significant adversity carries within it a pressure, a shaping force that moves through a person and leaves something behind. For most people, what gets left is a replication. The pain received was transmitted forward. The wound passed on. The behavior modeled by whoever hurt them was absorbed and repeated without examination. But that is not what happened in you. Something interrupted that process, and the interruption, rare, costly, mostly unwitnessed, is what I want to walk you through today. Because what it produced in you is not a gift in the passive sense. It is a capacity, one that most people never develop, and one that, understood correctly, will change how you read everything that comes next. Response, sovereignty. There's a concept in psychology that sits between resilience and neuroscience. Response flexibility. The gap between what happens to you and how you respond. Most people live on the automatic side of that gap. A criticism, betrayal, disappointment, or threat hits their system, and their nervous system answers the way it was trained, often in childhood, often by people who were reacting on autopilot too. The pain moves through them like current through wire, fast, efficient, and unconscious. But you developed something rarer, the ability to widen the gap, to place something between stimulus and response that isn't reaction. It's consideration, assessment, and choice. Let's name it precisely. Response sovereignty. The ability to author your response instead of being carried by it. To fully acknowledge what was done to you without minimizing it, and then decide what it becomes inside you and what it produces in your life.
This isn't emotional suppression, it's the opposite. It often means feeling more because you stay present instead of discharging pain onto others. Research on post-traumatic growth shows some people don't just survive adversity, they metabolize it. They process it fully and convert it into clarity, strength, and growth instead of passing it forward. Pain tried to shape you into someone bitter and reactive. You didn't become him. And that matters more than you've had words for. You transformed. Let me explain what transmission looks like so the distinction is clear. When pain is transmitted, which is the most common human response, it moves outward from the person who received it. It changes form, but the pattern remains. The parent who was shamed may grow into someone who shames. The partner who was abandoned may withdraw before they can be left. The child who was controlled
may become an adult who either controls others or accepts control as if it were love. Most of the time, this transmission is not malicious. It is unconscious. The nervous system simply repeats the patterns it learned while trying to survive earlier experiences. Family systems research shows this clearly. Pain that is never processed rarely disappears. Instead, it moves forward through relationships, sometimes across generations. What interrupts this cycle is not willpower or a simple decision to be better. It requires something more demanding, the willingness to remain present with your own pain long enough to understand it. At some point, your path diverged from the average. You stayed with the discomfort instead of discharging it onto others. You allowed yourself to feel what happened without letting it define your actions. That choice is rare, and it often happens quietly, without anyone witnessing the cost. 6 signs this shift is active in you. Here is how to know, not through revelation but through honest observation, whether what I have described is active in you. Sign 1. You no longer need to win arguments to feel safe. People still in transmission mode need to defeat the opposing voice, because the opposing voice represents the original threat. When response sovereignty develops, you can hear disagreement, criticism, or challenge and remain stable. Your nervous system no longer equates being questioned with being annihilated. You can be wrong and remain intact. You can be challenged and choose whether to engage.
Sign 2. Your compassion has become specific rather than unconditional. Earlier, you may have extended compassion as a survival strategy, because understanding the person who might hurt you felt safer than judging them. What develops with response sovereignty is different. You can see clearly why someone is the way they are, hold genuine empathy for the pain underneath their behavior, and simultaneously decline to absorb the behavior itself. Compassion and boundary existing together, neither canceling the other. Sign 3. You can be near someone in emotional chaos without becoming the chaos. Our physiological states are socially contagious. When someone around us is highly activated, our nervous system receives pressure to match that activation. Response sovereignty includes the capacity to stay regulated in the presence of dysregulation, not because you are unaffected, but because your nervous system has been trained through repeated experience to return to baseline rather than remain entrained to external states. Sign 4. You process betrayal without it defining your view of everyone. Betrayal in transmission mode tends to produce broad verdicts. People cannot be trusted. Love always ends in abandonment. Vulnerability is liability. What emerges in those who metabolize is more surgical. The capacity to process a specific betrayal, extract what it actually teaches about that specific person and dynamic, and return to engagement with life without carrying the betrayal as a comprehensive statement about human nature. Sign 5. Your anger has become information rather than weather. In transmission mode, anger is what it was in the environments that shaped it. Something large, unpredictable, dangerous, or to be suppressed entirely. In response sovereignty, anger is a precise signal. Something has crossed a line that matters. Something requires your attention. You can be angry and deliberate simultaneously. You can feel it fully and decide what it warrants, rather than being carried in a direction you wouldn't choose. Sign 6. You are no longer afraid of becoming the person who hurt you. This is the quietest sign,
and often the deepest. People who have not yet metabolized their pain carry a fear that they are, at some fundamental level, the same as the person who damaged them. The interruption of transmission is, among other things, the lived evidence that you are not that person. Not because you suppressed the possibility, because you chose, repeatedly and at real cost, to become someone different. How this changes your trajectory. Understanding what you have developed changes how you read your own life. Not because it makes the pain retroactively worth it in some transactional sense, but because it clarifies what the pain actually produced. The people around you will increasingly sense something they cannot name, but can feel. A quality of presence that doesn't fluctuate with the emotional weather of the room. A steadiness that isn't distance. An openness that coexists with clarity about limits. They are not watching someone who is shut down. They are watching someone who has, at significant cost, learned to be present without being consumed. The relationships you build from this point will be structurally different from the ones before the shift. Not because circumstances changed, but because what you bring to them has. You are less available for dynamics that require your dysfunction to operate. Not because you're superior, because you're less compatible. Patterns that depended on your automatic responses find less purchase. The healthier a dynamic, the more naturally it fits who you have become. And intergenerationally, this deserves to be said quietly and with full weight. The pattern ends with you. Whatever was transmitted through your family system, through the people who shaped you, through the environments that formed your earliest understanding of what relationships feel like, you are the person at whom the transmission stopped. That is not a metaphor. It is a structural reality in the lives of every person who comes after you, and is shaped by your presence rather than your unprocessed pain. Practical ways to strengthen it. 1. Notice the gap before you close it. The space between stimulus and response starts as barely perceptible. The practice of expanding it begins with noticing it exists. When you feel the pull toward a reactive response, pause and observe. What is happening in my body right now? What is the full emotional content of this moment before I decide what to do with it? The noticing is not the response. It is what makes a chosen response possible. 2. Name the old pattern precisely when you recognize it. Naming reduces the automatic force of a pattern. When you recognize the pull toward a transmitted behavior, the impulse to withdraw before you're left, to control before you're hurt, to preempt the pain you learn to anticipate, give it a precise name. Not "I am damaged," but "this is the pattern I learned when safety felt contingent." The specificity of naming is what separates understanding from self-condemnation. 3. Invest in somatic regulation, not only cognitive understanding. Response sovereignty is not primarily intellectual. The nervous system that learned its patterns through embodied experience is recalibrated through embodied experience, not reasoning alone. Consistent practices that work directly with physiological state, breath work, movement, time in genuinely safe connection, do the kind of nervous system recalibration that thinking about recalibration cannot fully achieve. 4. Use relationships as accurate mirrors, not confirmation devices. One risk of developing strong perceptual capacity is using it selectively, to confirm what you already believe rather than update your understanding. The practice of genuine openness to being changed by feedback, even uncomfortable feedback, is what keeps the capacity honest. You can be clear about your values and still curious about where you are wrong. These are not opposites. 5. Rest the function deliberately. Sustained response sovereignty, particularly in high-demand relational environments, is physiologically taxing. The capacity to remain present, regulated, and non-reactive draws on real neurological resources that require genuine rest to replenish. Protecting space for true physiological restoration is not self-indulgence. It is the maintenance of the capacity you have built. Calm identity reinforcement. I want to return to where we began. The man that pain tried to create. The one who would have transmitted all of it forward, efficiently, without examination, was the easier outcome. He required nothing exceptional, just the ordinary human pattern of passing forward what was received.
The person you became, instead, required something rare. Not talent, not luck, not circumstances that made the work easy. What it required was the willingness to remain present with what was most uncomfortable, most disorienting, most privately costly, and to do the work of metabolization without a guarantee of outcome, without an audience, without a monument to the effort. The warning in the title of this episode is real, but not the kind that produces fear. It is this: be careful how you underestimate what you have become. Be careful how quickly you attribute the qualities you have built to circumstance rather than to choice. Be careful how lightly you carry what cost you significantly to develop. Response sovereignty, the capacity to author your response rather than inherit it, is not something you stumbled into. It was built in the specific conditions of your life through decisions made when no one was watching, through the sustained choice to stay when leaving would have been easier, to remain open when closing would have felt safer, to examine what most people choose not to examine. That is who you are, not who the pain tried to make, not the transmission, but the transformation. It belongs to you completely, and it is not going anywhere. Take a breath before you move on to the next thing. If what I described today touched something real in you, share it with someone who is still in the middle of the work. Not as a promise that it gets easier, as evidence that the transformation is possible. This is the inner calling. I'll see you in the next one.